liberty, and justice for all.
Okay, I want to welcome everyone who is here and who is watching at home. Real briefly, we'll go over our agenda tonight. We have on a consent agenda the minutes from our July 23rd meeting and a final plat for amended Eagles Ridge PRO second plat. And then we have a master alternative sign plan for Duncan Corner, which is also known as Walmart. We'll start with the consent agenda. Accept a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The consent is approved. And we'll move right on to the master alternative sign plan for Duncan Corner. Mr. Hawley, would you like to make a presentation, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the commission. Oops, there we go. You bring it down. Before you tonight is an alternative sign plan for the recently approved Walmart at Duncan Corners. The property is located, as can be seen up there, on the southeast corner of Northwest 7 Highway and Northwest Duncan Road. By way of a little bit of history, go through kind of quickly. On July 9th, the Planning Commission approved the site plan and design review, as you may recall, for a 41,000 approximately square foot Walmart neighborhood market. On that same date, July 9th, you also approved the preliminary plat, and the final plat was recommended for approval and proceeded to the City Council, and on July 16th, the final plat was approved. The master alternative sign plan, which is before you tonight, is really their last step before they go to building permits. I'm looking now at page 3 of 6 of your staff report, and it just briefly lets you know that the wall signs, they are proposing a wall sign on the west facade and a wall sign. There are 2 proposed wall signs. But the signs that are really in question tonight are the monument signs, and they're proposing to put a monument sign on Northwest 7th Highway as well as Northwest Duncan. If you look at your staff report on page 4 of 6, there is a chart that provides the measurements for the monument sign, as well as a description for the reason for requesting the alternative sign plan. The primary reason being that the signs being proposed, and we'll put them up so you can take a look at those, are of a larger square footage than is allowed by code, and they are also, I think this is what we're looking for right here, and we should be able to rotate that. As well as the height. The height is larger as well. So the monument sign that is located along Duncan Road they're proposing 99.50 square feet. They are allowed 75 square feet, and the height being proposed is 9.17, and because this particular sign does not sit back the minimum of 10 feet, it is allowed to be only 8-foot maximum height. On the monument sign on 7 Highway, that sign does set back from the road, as can be seen in the staff report, and they were allowed an additional 16 square feet because of the setback, which brought their total to 91 square feet allowed. Again, they are proposing 99.5, so it's slightly larger. And the height, the maximum height on that particular sign is 12 feet, so it does meet the height requirement. Staff is recommending conditional approval, and the conditions being proposed are basically to bring those signs into conformance with the code. In other words, for the sign on 7 Highway, that would mean reducing the square footage to meet the 91 square feet. For the sign on Duncan Road, that would mean reducing the height as well as the square footage to bring it into compliance with the city code. And those conditions are reflected in condition 1 and 2. The other condition number 3 talks about a landscape planting plan. They did not provide us with that planting plan, but that's an issue that with this condition we will review through the building permit process. It's not a major issue from our standpoint, nor as we understand it from theirs. And then the last condition, of course, is just a simple standard sign permit. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them. And the architect is also here tonight, so they would, I'm sure, be happy to answer questions as well.
Are there any questions for staff?
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to clarify. Sheriff, if it was not for these 2 monument signs being oversized, if you will, then everything else is within our ordinances.
That's correct.
And the
That is
setback.
correct.
Yeah, right. And
That's correct. The only reason they're before you tonight is because they're proposing something outside of what would be required for the 2 monument signs, but the wall signs are meet the sign code.
Mhm. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Holly.
Thank you.
Welcome. Would you like to make a presentation, please?
I'd just like to say a couple of words. First, let me apologize for being a little bit late. There was an accident on the interstate, and then I didn't realize we weren't at City Hall, so my apologies. As he's already stated, of course, we're here on behalf of the 2 monument signs that that don't quite meet your ordinance in terms of area and height. And just a couple of things that I'd like to point out to you that I'm sure you're fully aware of. One of the setbacks we don't meet, obviously, because of the topography. We can't set back because of the retaining wall that's going to be set there. So we can't quite make that setback, which doesn't allow us to make that requirement. And then some of the reasons we'd like to request the alternative site plan. We are upgrading the building as well, as you probably already are aware. You've probably seen that site plan that came through earlier, that came for this board as well. And so we're making those concessions as well, and so we'd like for you to also please consider that as you're making this decision. The size of the signs we don't feel are just overly large. They are prototypical. I will tell you that they are prototypical for our client, and we think that they're appropriate for the size of the store, and we do feel that they would fit well in the area that they're proposed for. Let's see. Other than that, really, I think they probably covered it very well before I got here. Again, I apologize for being a little bit tardy, but if you have any specific questions about the signs themselves, I'll be glad to answer those for you.
Do we have any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. Would anyone like to make any comments? Ms. Culpepper?
Why not? Yeah, I have a problem with having the signs not meet our current code. I see no reason for them not to be able, or not to build according to what we require of everyone else. So that's where I stand on this.
Any other comments?
Ken,
Yes.
if we disapprove this, then what's the alternative? Do they have to go back before the Board of Adjustments or something to get something like this waived?
Mr. Holly?
Because they're proposing an alternative sign plan and the sign code is within the building code, there isn't an option for them to go to the Board of Adjustment. So if the alternative sign plan isn't approved here, they could appeal to the City Council. One thing that I would like to make you aware of from staff's perspective, the setback for the sign that is close to the retaining wall, staff is not opposed to that setback. We understand that's less than 10 feet, but they do have some site configuration issues there that make it impossible for them to move that sign back, or very difficult to move that sign back. So we're not opposed to that particular portion of the request. What we're looking at is the overall square footage of the signs and the height of the sign on Duncan.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Banks?
from what I understand, that if we approve this, then they would have to meet code.
With the recommendation.
With the staff recommendations, that's correct.
That's correct.
So if we approve this motion, then they would have to confirm and then have to be within the...
We don't have to, we do not have to include the staff recommendations, however. But if we do include the staff recommendations, then we would be making the sign smaller to comply with code.
Well, I think that Mr. Wallace, I kind of was wondering if you, one way or the other, so I'm going to make it clear.
But if we were to totally deny the permit, then it would be appealed.
So if we move to approve this with the recommendations, we are bringing the sign size into code, but we are allowing for that difference in the setback.
That's correct. And on a personal note, that would be my recommendation, because I agree there is a justification for the setback. I have not heard a valid reason for the increased size other than we'd like it to be bigger, and we think it could be bigger. And that does not give us the criteria that we need to approve an alternate sign plan.
That was a question I was going to bring up, is there a reason why they want the signs bigger?
Obviously, for visibility. There are a lot of other businesses along both sides of those roads. There are a lot of pole signs still existing there. There's a fair amount of clutter. And so be able to see the site and to increase the visibility, obviously, they would like a larger sign. Or not, well, the sign that they're asking for.
Okay.
May I ask,
Yes, absolutely.
there's a pole sign there in the shopping center.
For CVS
Stay
only.
there?
Yeah, that's simply for CVS as a separate lot, separate sign, yes.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Ms. Duhon?
Is there going to be a sign on the front of the store that illuminates out as well?
There is a sign on the front of the store, and there's a sign on one of the sides of the store that's planned. Yes.
Okay, and so with both of those signs there, Walmart feels that they still need bigger signs for visibility for people to know that it's going to be there?
The store is set back fairly far from the road. So, I mean, it's not like it's set, many of those businesses are right on the road, and this one is not.
Any other questions or comments? Not, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to
Ms.
make a
Banks?
motion to approve case file on the Duncan Corner alternative sign plan, ASP-8-12-3584, the 4 staff conditions.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? And then that motion carries. And that being said, we move on to any other business. I think everybody should have gotten a final printed copy of the capital improvement plan. Thank you, Mr. Allen, for putting that, getting that back to us.
Thanks to Mr. Holly for putting that together.
But then thank you, Mr. Hawley, for getting that to us. It's a very, very nice job, as always. And Scott, did you have anything that you wanted to mention tonight?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I think what was handed out before you tonight was in your packet is a save the date for the next Eastern Jackson County Planning Commissioners training, which is Tuesday, October 2nd. You've kind of maybe seen a little bit of a trend. We're trying to shoot for kind of the first Tuesday of the month, kind of like every third or fourth month. So something to kind of think about in the next future meetings when those might be. 5:30 to 8, not Has not been determined yet where it will be, but most likely in the city of Independence, since they're the ones hosting.
Are they hosting?
Yes. So it's their turn next, and they did want, the primary focus will be kind of bringing you back to the 40 highway corridor planning, which is a good segue into what's happening this week, starting tomorrow night, continuing Wednesday and Thursday. This is the first of the public open house meetings for the 40 highway Creating Sustainable Places corridor plan that Mid-America Regional Council is putting together with their consultant called Design Workshop and their subcontractors there. The first meeting again is tomorrow night in Independence, Wednesday's in Kansas City, and Thursday, this Thursday the 30th, is in Blue Springs. And that's at William Bryant Elementary from 5 to 8. It's kind of a two-part repeat evening. You don't need to be there for 3 hours. It is an open house, and they're scheduled to have 2 presentations, one at 5:30 and then repeated at 7 o'clock. So if you can make one of those, that would be great. Again, does not have to be necessarily at the Blue Springs event. Obviously, may be more geographically convenient, but any 3 of those, you're welcome to attend. They're going to kind of replicate each one, each of the 3 nights. Obviously, the attendance will be primarily from each of those hosting cities, and so some of the Q&A that may happen will be more specific to that city, but the presentation materials will be the same.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have anything they want to add tonight? I would like to remind everybody, I think hopefully everybody saw the newspaper on Friday and has seen the emails that are going around, and for everybody at home about the imminent closing of the downtown post office. I think that would be a very unfortunate event, considering that downtown is just starting to really make some strides forward, and this will really hurt us. And what we're being told is the only way to stop that is for lots and lots of people to make complaints and comments to the post office and our elected officials. And if you need to know how to get a hold of those people, the Chamber of Commerce has a list, and they would be very glad to supply it to anybody who'd like to do that. I'd also like to remind everybody that the next to the last car cruise for this summer is on Saturday, downtown from 5 p.m. till dark. And the Barbecue Blaze-Off is coming up September 7th through and 8th in Hidden Valley Park. And the last thing is that the city will be holding a free document shredding at City Hall on September 22nd from 9 to noon. You can bring up to 4 grocery sacks of documents, papers, not newspapers, but papers that need to be shredded, and will be no charge for that. Is there anything else anybody would like to add? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.